Hello friends, this is Sachin from Team Decipher, and we will be discussing Indian culture, and the topic we are discussing today is Indian architecture. Fine. So Indian culture is basically very much a favorite subject for various competitive exams, including UPSC for that matter. So moving on, the topic we are taking is architecture. Architecture is basically derived from the Latin word tecton, which literally means the builder. And whereas sculptures are concerned, it is derived from the word cal, which actually means to carve or to cut. Okay. So if we take the example of Taj Mahal, then what it is? This is the example of architecture. And if we talk about the Sultanganj Buddha, which is 7 feet, almost 7 feet tall statue made of solid copper, this is the example of sculpture. Okay. So moving on, there must be some difference which one should know about architecture and sculpture as far as these are concerned with the differentiation aspect. Then we have, देखो, architecture is something which is connected with the design and construction of buildings, whereas sculptures are relatively small and 3D artistic work. Basically, these are some objects which are used for their aesthetic values, whereas architecture uses a mixture of various materials, for example, stone, wood, glass. The building is not only made up of cement, it also uses iron pillars, it also uses glass windows, it also uses doors made up of wood, whereas sculptures, they are basically made up of single type of material. As you saw in the previous slide, the Sultanganj Buddha, for that matter, was made up of copper, and for that matter, the bronze dancing girl of Harappa, that is a bronze sculpture of Harappan society. Okay. So if we again, the last differentiation point was the accurate measurement on which the architecture actually depends upon, because if you build a building, then there need to be certain measurements which architects are basically rely upon just to give the stability, otherwise the building will collapse. Whereas sculpture involves creativity and the imagination of the its developer, and it may not heavily, it may not, it's not very much compulsory, but it may not depend heavily on the accurate measurements. Moving forward, so if we try to classify the Indian architecture and sculpture portion can be divided into ancient India, where we'll study Harappan, and we'll study the Mauryan, post-Mauryan, Gupta age, southern Indian. And if we talk about the medieval age, then Delhi Sultanate and Mughal period will be our object of study. And modern India, herein we'll read about Indo-Gothic and Neo-Roman. Okay, so first of all, we'll be looking after the Harappan architecture and art. Well, Harappan civilization flourished in 3rd millennium BC in its second half on the river Indus, and it spreads across the large part of Western India, where you can see this particular part where we find Harappa, Mohenjo-daro. Takshila was the oldest remains where we found the university and other things. So Ropar, Kalibangan, Lothal, where did we find our dockyard over there? And in this civilization, we found various sculptures, seals, potteries, jewelries, like the red graveware potteries we found over there. And civic planning was a stunning feature of this civilization. Like roads, these roads were cutting each other at the 90-degree angle, fine. And houses, these houses were having drainage and a well for bathing and other cleansing purposes, and these drains were actually connected with the main drain, fine, which was running along the main road. Here you can see it over here. Okay, if we talk about the architecture, only the architecture part in Harappan civilization, then what we see, it is the remarkable sense of town planning. How town planning, how it was remarkable? The entire town was, designed on a rectangular pattern grid like this, whereas the roads were cutting each other in the right angle. These are the roads which are cutting each other in the right angle. Okay, so no circular roads or any such sort of abrupt road paths were there. Well, in Harappan culture, we were having basically three type of buildings. One was public building, public baths, and the dwelling house. Let's see more about it. These houses and buildings were made up of mud bricks which were actually burned. It was not the raw, no, they were burned, and these were having standard dimensions. The dimensions were not abrupt dimensions, they were having proper dimension and scale for all the buildings they were using, and these were joined together the gypsum and mortar. This excellence was something worth notable, because the Great Bath, where this specimen was seen, it was not having any leakage even the day till it was found. So it was a very, basically of a very fine quality, the building material the people were using, and the technique they are using to make their buildings was quite remarkable. The city, that was basically divided into two parts. One was the upper citadel and another was the lower one. Then western part, this upper citadel was situated in the western part of the, this was east, west, north, south. So this was on the higher and raised platform most of the times, and where we had the granaries, we had the administrative buildings, we had the court hall over there. And in the lower city, the small one room or maybe two room, or maybe the that may be used for the working classes, and sometimes we found a double stories evidences, which means actually not double stories as such we found over there. We only found the staircases, which automatically indicates towards the double story buildings that the people might be having. So there is, we are watching on the slide, this is the upraised citadel, and which was in, it was in the western part, right? So this was the lower city where the evidence of one room and staircases were found. Fine. Okay, moving on further. We'll take one by one the all important buildings. Like this was public baths, and it indicates, what it indicates, public bath, it indicates the importance of ritualistic cleansing, though it was not, it is still not very much clear what these public baths were actually. But one thing is for sure, is clear, that those were public in nature. So maybe for some ritual, maybe for some other purpose, but they were essentially public in its nature. It had galleries and rooms around it, and that may be only for one single reason, to change clothes or to have a certain ritual to be performed over there. And the example is like we see in the Great Bath of Mohenjo-daro. Here we can see this. This is the Great Bath, and stairs over there. And these are the small galleries we are talking about, right? Here. So there is a computer generated recreation of this scene. We will see. Yes. This is the recreation that the people have created, that how it must have looked at its time of its zenith. Okay. This is the Great Bath, which we indicated over there. These were the galleries, staircase, and this was the thing. This Great Bath was basically sealed with the gypsum mortar. Okay. Moving on, it was the lower citadel. The lower city we were talking about was mainly, the people were very hygiene conscious. So they had the drainage system, which small drains from each houses was connected to the large end, as we discussed it earlier, and these drains were even covered so that it may prevent them from infections. And वहाँ का, this was their local Swachh Harappa Abhiyan. So the people were, in fact, we Indians were very hygiene conscious from the time immortals, but we are only hygienic inside our house. I don't know what is happening to us people. We are not that much hygienic on our roads, by the way. Moving on forward, this is the platform for the house. There was the house. This was the drainage, which was connected to the main drainage over there, and this is the main road we were talking about. Okay. Moving on forward. Well, this was the part in where we discussed our architectural part of the Harappan civilization. In next slides we will be taking over the sculpture part. Until then, thank you for watching, and visit our website decipherias.com for more videos, for more news analysis, articles which can help you in your various examinations. And please, if you like this, please do like us on Facebook page. This is our Facebook page address, and thank you. We'll visit again soon.